Fox Sports welcomes you to the following presentation of the National Football League.
We are set to go. The Bears won the toss. They will receive. Down to the field. We check in with Pam Oliver.
Well, Joe, after a ton of mistakes last week, Dallas Cowboys coach Wade Phillips decided to crack down. Any players who had lapses in concentration or made mistakes in practice this week were sent to the locker room, and I was told there was more than one instance of that. Back to you.
All right, we'll see how that translates into this ball game. It's 0-1 against 1-0. There is Wade Phillips, who is in his 4th year as head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And the offense is definitely under the microscope. You look at Mike Martz and what that offense is doing, the bottom point. But that's really what the Alex Barron situation was last week. Everybody kept saying Alex Barron, Alex Barron. He made 3 holding penalties. That covered up the fact that offensively, other than Alex Barron, the Cowboys really didn't do anything at the Washington Redskins.
No, you're right, and a big part of that was because of the penalties that Pam Oliver alluded to. And in fact, going back to the start of the 08 season, the Cowboys, the most penalized team in the National Football League.
Beeler will kick it off. He led the NFL in touchbacks last year as a rookie. Drives this one into the end zone, and Knox will take it out. Johnny Knox gets the edge. Beeler knocks him out after he crosses the 35. A 42-yard return and a great start for Chicago.
Well, a couple good blocks on the outside. You see they started up inside wedge, and then Knox is able to break it to the outside. Anytime you're one-on-one then with the kicker, Beeler in this case having to make the tackle.
Beeler is a guy who proved last year, and he did last week, that he will stick his nose in there and make a play. Bad news is for Dallas, he's had to. Starting at their own 37. And handing it off to Forte. Spears on the tackle, a gain of 5. And Matt Forte, who has that burst back that we saw in his rookie season 2 years ago, is on that list. He is backed up by Chester Taylor. And here's the offensive line, and number 74, Chris Williams, at left tackle. Troy will have his hands full with DeMarcus Ware.
You know, watching the game last week with Mike Martz, first 2 plays of the game were running plays. I thought maybe they hired the wrong guy. And he opens this game up with a running play as well to Forte.
On second down, Cutler is ripped to the ground. Spencer was in there. DeMarcus Ware was in there. And I think Cutler's saying maybe he got a hand up into the face. Here's Spencer off the edge.
Yeah, well, Anthony Spencer, he just comes unblocked. He comes in, and you see definitely a face mask to Jay Cutler.
They missed it. It's not called.
I'll tell you, Chris Williams has got the face mask on DeMarcus Ware on the opposite side.
Bears have to use a timeout, and I think Jay Cutler is stunned that Scott Green and this officiating crew missed a flagrant face mask call. 3rd down when we come back.
Today's game on Fox is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com.
Crowd will get into it on 3rd and 12. Bears stayed out of 3rd and long for the most part last week against Detroit. They're in it here. 4-man rush from Dallas. Ware gets there too late. Pass complete, but way short of a 1st down, and Cutler has to get up off the turf. Pass complete to Earl Bennett for just 5 yards. It's 4th down.
Well, and this is what was a concern coming into this game for offensive coordinator Mike Martz, was how are they going to be able to control both DeMarcus Ware and Anthony Spencer. We saw on the 2nd down play Anthony Spencer came unblocked, but you know they're trying to give help there on the outside. Brandon Manu Maliuna lines up at the tight end spot, trying to make it a wider edge for DeMarcus Ware, but he's still able to get the hit on Cutler.
Maynard hits a line drive, and it will stay away from Dallas players, and as it goes backward, it's tapped at the 25. Take a look at the offense for the Dallas Cowboys. Last week, they racked up 380 yards of offense. But you know the rest of the story. They scored only 7 points. They targeted the rookie Des Bryant, had 8 catches against the Redskins, and there are 2 important faces back as starters on the offensive line. Kozar at left guard and Colombo at right tackle.
And I think if you talk to every offensive player, they would tell you that the reason that they have struggled throughout the preseason as well as last week was because of the lack of continuity due to those 2 guys being out of the lineup.
Well, the excuses are gone now as Marion Barber takes it up to the 28. The Cowboys have been able to say, well, we didn't have 2 pieces of our offensive line. In camp, well, we didn't have Des Bryant. They're all there now, so it's time for Dallas to show what it can do. We look at the 4-3 defense of the Chicago Bears, and Urlacher missed basically all of last year, is back in the middle.
Yeah, and he started the season off last week against Detroit in fine fashion. 10 tackles in that ball game. In fact, him and Lance Briggs both were all over the field.
On second down, Romo has to move. He hits the rookie, and Gronkowski is flipped by Chris Gronkowski, who is an undrafted college free agent from Arizona, is playing in the place of Deion Anderson. Typical fullback who has a torn meniscus in his knee. He's out 2 to 4 weeks. And Gronkowski was good for 6. It's 3rd and 1.
Well, in that situation, whether it's Gronkowski at fullback or the tight end position, they're a little thin. They've got 2 tight ends. John Phillips, of course, a guy who contributed for the Cowboys last year when down in preseason. He's out for the season. So they've got 2 tight ends in Jason Witten and Martellus Bennett. And then, as you mentioned, Joe, just the 1 fullback with Gronkowski.
We're looking at Chris Williams. Marcus Spears just came in along the offensive line. And it's Barber for the first down. And so Marcus Spears will now check out. We've done a lot of Cowboy games. I don't remember Marcus Spears coming in to help on short yardage.
No, anything that they can do. You know, I mean, they want to get some big bodies in there to try to help out. But not quite Fridge-like, is it?
No, really wasn't that exciting. Felix Jones now in the lineup for Dallas on first down. He gets it, and he goes nowhere, and Briggs is there immediately. Let's go for a game break. Here's Kurt Menefee.
You talk about immediately, the Steelers and Titans. Immediately, Pittsburgh scores. Opening kickoff of the game. Waldy Moore takes it to the 3-yard line, gives it on the end around to the rookie, Antonio Brown. 6th-round pick out of Central Michigan, takes it the last 89 yards for the score. And the Steelers, just like that, up 7-0 on the Titans. Joe, Troy, and Pam.
Well, they're already 1-0 without Ben Roethlisberger. And a good start on special teams for the Steelers today. Out of the shotgun. Pass is caught and now tipped into the arms of DJ Moore. What a hit on Miles Austin and an early turnover. Austin had it, got smacked, and DJ Moore comes away with a pick.
Well, they've got Miles Austin working the inside. This is versus a rolled corner. So because of that, Charles Tillman's able to come off of his outside receiver and be there to put the hit. Then on Miles Austin, and as you said, DJ Moore in a perfect position then to make the interception.
Somehow able to corral it before it hit the turf. And the second-year player out of Vanderbilt comes away with an early turnover, and now the Bears take over at the Dallas 23. They started in a wildcat formation and now shift Cutler back under center. And hand it to Forte. Forte on first down gets 6. There are a lot of Bear fans in attendance here today, and they are making noise here early, and that's not good news. The starting left tackle Chris Williams exits the field.
Yeah, no, that's not good at all, because that was an offensive line last year that was in a state of flux throughout the season, and they've gone through some adjustments this offseason. But a nice job there defensively with the takeaway, particularly the interception. That's an area of this defense for Chicago where they have not been very good at keeping their hands on balls when they have had opportunities for interceptions.
Hand out to Forte, and he's bottled up. Kevin Schaefer is now playing left tackle. Williams is going to get his ankle rewrapped, and the Bears are inside the red zone where last week against the Lions they stumbled. Everybody knows about taking over at the 1 and not scoring the touchdown, but they were 4 times in the red zone, no touchdowns, and came away with a total of 6 points.
Yeah, and a couple of fumbles as well. They had one by Greg Olson and then one by Matt Forte.
3rd and 5. That's Forte at the top.
They left him uncovered. They're trying to get out on him now.
Brooking is the one in front of him. And that'll be a false start against Schaefer as Cutler again gets smacked. 78 Schaefer, who's in at left tackle, moved too soon.
Prior to the snap, false start. Number 78 offense. 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
You know, Joe, that right side of the offensive line is really having some problems. We saw him turn Anthony Spencer loose earlier. You're going to see they got to block out here, but instead they're staying into the inside, and so they're not. They call that fan protection when Lance Lewis, the right guard, as well as Frank O'Miel, the right tackle. They've got to basically fan that out and pick it up, and they've now missed it twice.
3rd down and 10. Cutler steps up, can't get away. Penalty flag comes in, and Cutler's going to have a long day. DeMarcus Ware got in there as Cutler needs help to get up. 2 flags are down on the play. And those offensive linemen are yelling at each other. They are confused.
There are 2 fouls on the play that will offset. Holding, number 78 offense. Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, number 51 defense. Penalties offset, 3rd down.
So you replay 3rd and 10.
Well, what they did was they brought Orlando Scandrick off the edge, and then DeMarcus Ware ran a twist, and he had a long way to go. You're going to see him come all the way around here before he's able to get the pressure then on DeMarcus Ware. But because Scandrick brings edge pressure, he forces Cutler to step up, and that's where Ware was. And then this is what they called on Keith Brooking at the end. The whistle had blown there, and he power drived him into the turf.
On 3rd and 10, Cutler can't get away from Spencer. Jay Cutler is going to need help getting to the bus if it's going to be this kind of a day. 4
sacks in last week's game against the Detroit Lions, and it wasn't because Mike March wasn't concerned with protection. 2 of those sacks were with 7-man protection. So Mike March knows this offensive line needs help. And we've seen it here in this first quarter that Jay Cutler, each time he has dropped back, he has been under the gun.
And eventually on the turf. 38-yard try by Gold. And the first points of the day belong to Chicago. They get the turnover delivered by DJ Moore. Get inside the red zone and have to settle for 3.
Today's game on Fox is sponsored by Bud Light. It's the sure sign of a good time. Here we go.
Robbie Gould will kick it away. Akwasi Owusu Ansah.
Do what?
Number 27 is back for Dallas. And a line drive kick from the goal line. Out to the 20. Take a break, come back. Second crack at it for the Dallas offense. First time it resulted in a turnover. Bears up 3.
Today's game is sponsored by Sprint, the Now Network. By the new Ford Edge, the world has never seen a crossover quite like this. And by DirecTV. Watch your favorite team wherever you live, only on DirecTV.
Tony Romo is coming off just his 7th interception in his last 16 starts. It was one that comes with an asterisk, as it was in and out of the hands of Miles Austin after a hit by Tillman, eventually into the arms of DJ Moore. Starting at their own 20, down by 3. Marion Barber gets it in a big hole right up the middle, and Barber on first down gets 7, and we go down to Pam Oliver.
Well, Joe, an already long day for Jay Cutler may have gotten a little bit longer. His starting left tackle, Chris Williams, has a hamstring injury severe enough that he is out for the game. Originally, they thought it was an ankle injury. O-line coach Mike Tice, meantime, he's working furiously to get the offensive line calmed down and a little less confused out there.
Mike Tice has been working furiously all offseason.
First-year offensive line coach for Lovie Smith as Barber gets it again and has a first down carry, and he had a lot of room to run. Gets 7 again.
One of the things when you talk about the Chicago Bears defensively, everybody talks about the Tampa 2 scheme that Lovie Smith likes to run. It's not real accurate, though. On early downs, they generally like to drop an 8th guy down into the box and play single safety, which means it's one-on-one on the outside. But they've got a decision they've got to make here today as to whether they're going to try to stop the running game of the Cowboys or they're going to keep from creating big plays and play coverage.
Back to Marion Barber, gets to the edge. And Barber is tackled from behind in the bench area. Pops right up Zachary Bowman on the tackle, a gain of 8. So 7, 7, and 8 on 3 carries for Barber.
Well, and this time Chicago tries to show they're too deep, but you're going to see Daniel Manning come in here to create the extra man in run support, but he's not able to make the tackle. A lot of times you hear defenses and offenses talk about the extra guy in the box. Well, there's no guarantee that that guy's going to make the play when he's there, and Daniel Manning did not.
Here's Felix Jones, and he's trying to get around Tillman. Tillman, a good job to bring him down after a gain of 2. Let's go for a game break. Here's Kurt.
Michael Vick starting in place of the injured Kevin Cobb for Philadelphia at Detroit. Opening series of the game, Vick hooking up with Deshaun Jackson, and just like that, the Vick experiment looking good in the early going. Already up 7-0 on top of the Lions in the first quarter. Joe, Troy, and Pam.
Probably some fantasy owners pretty happy with that one.
I'll guarantee you. And there's a head coach that while he's watching that happen, and Andy Reid, he's thinking, okay, now I have another set of questions to answer if Vick plays well, as we saw him do in the second half of last week. Penalty flag comes in as Felix Jones loses 3. Urlacher, the first guy there.
Well, Kyle Kozar was pulling the lead on that play, and he got beyond the defender and then just tackled him.
Saw Urlacher. Urlacher doesn't want the Bears to accept the penalty. He's screaming over at Lovie Smith, who said take the penalty.
Holding. Offense. Number 63. 10-yard penalty. First down.
Hey, look at Urlacher. He is hot. So I just brought down Felix Jones for a loss of 3.
Yeah.
And now you're going to give him an extra down and give him 7 yards backward.
Yeah, you give him an extra down to back him up 7 more yards in essence, and Urlacher's got more confidence in his defense than that.
It's 1st and 20. Free rush, and the pass incomplete for Roy Williams as Anderson was coming unblocked.
Yeah, Mark Colombo never got out of his stance. You know, Gerard, we've seen this before. You see Romo talking to him now. The ball apparently was not snapped, or was snapped early, I should say, because Mark Colombo did not even get out of his stance. And then, of course, you see Romo having a conversation with Gerard. And as I said, and over the years, Gerard's been kind of known to snap it whenever he's ready and not necessarily when Romo's ready.
I like seeing Romo or any quarterback get after the offensive line. He was yelling at Andre Gerard. He's coming off his 4th straight Pro Bowl year. How about Toino just slapping that out of the air? And it's 3rd and 20.
You know, Matt Toino, I was impressed with what I saw of him last week in that game against the Detroit Lions. He comes in and spells Tommy Harris from time to time and gets into that rotation and does a good job there because the Cowboys are trying to set up the screen. Both of these defense came out playing hot today. They're doing a good job of getting some pressure here on the quarterbacks.
It's 3rd down and 20. Underneath, it's Choice, and he's got a long way to go. And he can only take it out to the 41, a gain of 6, and the Dallas Cowboy offense, except for 3 early runs by Marion Barber, hasn't shown anything, especially through the air.
Well, you're not going to get much when you're looking at 3rd and long against this defense, really any defense, but because they will play coverage, they will play that 2 safety deep shell. It's very hard then to get the ball down the field against those looks, and you've got to come underneath. Of course, the Bears understand that, and they come up and make the tackle well short of a 1st down.
McBriar punts it. Devin Hester, who was once one of the most dangerous return men in the league, lets it sail out of bounds. For McBriar, a 37-yard punt. Bears with the ball and a 3-point lead. Jay Cutler, I'm sure, is standing there wondering what kind of protection he's going to get the next time he drops back. And whatever meeting he had early when Mike Martz came aboard, I'm sure Mike left the cut-ups out of the film. He gave Cutler of quarterbacks getting pasted in Mike Martz's offensive system.
That's kind of been one of the staples, hasn't it? It's also one of the staples of Ben scoring a lot of points.
No doubt about that. Here's Forte. And Forte is brought down by Ratliff. A gain of just 2. And Jay Cutler's already felt a lot of heat.
You know, I think, Joe, though, we're seeing the Cowboys do some things with some of the blitzes and stuff. And I know this week, you know, Mike Tice and some of the other coaches talked about the offensive line and felt that they had played pretty well last week against Detroit. I thought they were average at best. And they haven't been real good here in the early going.
2nd and 8. Ware coming off the edge, misses the sack, and Cutler throws it away. And right now the offensive line for Chicago has absolutely no answer for the outside linebackers of the Cowboys.
Yeah, and Mike Martz keeps Brandon Manu Maliuna in to help with that, along with Kevin Schaefer, and DeMarcus Ware just goes right by them both. You know, I mean, Mike Martz is trying to do what he can to put 2 guys on DeMarcus Ware and slow down this pass rush. And if you can't, I mean, this guy's good, but he's not Superman.
Schaefer's now at right tackle, and Omiel's out at left tackle. And it's Ware going around Omiel, who got a hand on him, dragged it. And I'm telling you, Jay Cutler, when he goes to bed tonight, he will see number 94 when he closes his eyes, and you can see Cutler say, will you block somebody?
Well, DeMarcus Ware, he's got such great quickness and explosion off the edge, and he's able to get low, and he just goes right by Frank Omiel. Now, in Frank's defense, you know, he came into this game as a right tackle, and he played last year as a left guard. And now, in the middle of the game, he's being asked to switch over to the left side so that Schaefer, apparently he's more comfortable playing right tackle, and neither one of them are doing a good job.
Maynard, low line drive punt, and it's the rookie Des Bryant. There goes the rookie, right around Maynard. Touchdown Dallas, no flags. Traded up to get him. They call him the natural in this organization. Right around the punter. 62 yards. 7-3 Dallas. Montre Holland, number 64, was injured on the extra point. Major Wright was injured. He's limping off the field back to the locker room. And we'll show you that punt return, 62 yards from Des Bryant. First NFL touchdown, and it was electrifying here in Arlington.
Both of those injuries are significant for the respective teams. You've got Major Wright, who was in the rotation at safety with Daniel Manning and was expected to continue with that here today. And then Montre Holland, because of the uncertainty of Kyle Kozar, a guy who started last week and actually played pretty well, they felt that he would still get some playing time at that spot this afternoon.
Beeler pops it up, a little onside kick try, and a fair catch called for and hauled in. Well done by Tim Jennings.
We'll go back and take a look at this, and you're going to see Leon Williams, number 52, not a great block, but he got just enough to spring Des Bryant, and Brad Maynard just kind of misplayed that. He had the sideline to his advantage that he could have tried to work Bryant that way and then push him out. But he's a punter and not a safety. You know, I agree with you, Joe. That call there by Tim Jennings on the fair catch, you know, very well done. Ball never hit the ground, so he was able to make the fair catch.
And it was an odd, I guess you put that in the category of an onside kick, but it was just a little pop-up kick. And great starting field position at the 42 for Chicago, down by 4.
And Mike Martz has got two tight ends right now trying to shore up that protection.
Here is Chester Taylor out of the backfield, makes a nice move, but Brady James, after going around Brooking, makes the stop, a gain of 1. Fox Saturday Baseball Game of the Week. Red Sox and Yankees, the Reds and Padres. That could be a playoff preview. It's this week at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific, as we go down the stretch in Major League Baseball.
Of course, my Padres with a big win last night.
Yeah, well, we keep referencing this, and the world should know that you're a minority owner in the San Diego Padres ownership group. Here's a quick throw, and the pass complete to Hester. And Devin Hester is inside the 40 to the 39, and the Bears may have to go to more of that quick stuff to protect Cutler.
Well, what they do is they uncover Devin Hester. The Cowboys did. They had a safety on him. He's deep in coverage. Allen Ball, and Cutler sees it. That was not the design play, but because Cutler picks it up right away, as did Hester, he comes up, gets the ball in his hands quickly. And as we know, Devin Hester is awfully dangerous when he's got the ball in his hands with a lot of space.
19 yards for Devin Hester.
He's uncovered again here.
It's interesting because the defensive backs coach Dave Campbell said we're best when we're pressed up in the faces of these receivers. Now another quick throw, and it's Olsen. And Olsen will coast into the end zone for the touchdown. Got a good block from Earl Bennett on his way in for the score, and now Chicago back on top.
Yeah, well, they go to this basically the same look opposite, because Greg Olsen's going to come off the ball and he's untouched as well. You're going to see Olsen here. He's just going to take the middle, and then Cutler's going to put it on him. Now Earl Bennett, number 80, does a great job on Orlando Scandrick at the end of this play to keep Olsen free. Now they were in man coverage, and that's why once Olsen got the ball in his hands, everyone else was running with their backs to him and didn't know to come off of their man to try to make the tackle.
And now it's 10-7 Chicago. So Greg Olsen, who last year led the Bears with 60 receptions, 8 receiving touchdowns, had 612 yards, all career highs, cruises in, and in the words of Mike Martz, I've never had a tight end that can run like Greg Olsen.
We're going to see the man coverage is the safety there, but they put 2 receivers to that side. Allen Ball was out there with Chester Taylor, and nobody was accounting for Greg Olsen. That was either Allen Ball's man or a linebacker that should have come out on Greg Olsen. Clearly man coverage, and that's why Scandrick wasn't able to peel off of his receiver Earl Bennett in time to make a play.
Jay Cutler with a good job of recognizing what was in front of him, hitting Hester and then hitting Olsen, and Dave Campo, who was like a little kid waiting for Des Bryant to get back to the sideline after his touchdown, has a different look on his face.
Well, and this is a defense for the Cowboys. They like to play man coverage. You know, that's what they do, and they're good at it, and they challenge receivers, and that's one of the reasons why they've been so effective against the run in recent years. But when you play man coverage and then you fail to cover a man, well, then there's nobody there to help. Whereas in zone, if you turn somebody loose, people can then converge on the receiver.
So the Bears are up by 3. And the kick is taken by Owusu Ansah. And he gets absolutely drilled by Henry Melton after a return of 21 yards. If it looks a little different right now on your screen, it's because we present the NFL to you in widescreen. Same way you have potentially been watching movies at home, and it gives you more of the picture to enjoy, more players on the field on your screen. In the category of why wasn't it done sooner, and the answer is because there are more widescreens and high-def TVs out there now than ever, more than the standard version, and so we're giving you as much as we can. Anything else, you need a seat license. On first down, it's Felix Jones out of the backfield, and now we'll see if the Dallas offense can do anything moving the football.
You know, and I think Felix Jones is one of those guys that they really want to get the ball in his hands more often. And last week he had 8 carries and 2 receptions, and you know, 10 touches for him is just not enough. This is a guy that over 2 years has averaged 6.5 yards per rushing attempt. And so he's explosive when he has the ball. The problem with him is they worry about his durability running between the tackles, and he's not been a big threat as a receiver. Only 23 receptions in 21 career games. That has to change if he's going to get more touches.
Jabs to his right, now does run straight ahead, picks up a first down, and that's the end of the first quarter here in Texas. By the way, Major Wright, the rookie who is supposed to be involved at safety for the Chicago Bears, is out for the rest of the game with a hamstring injury. So we've had a couple of electrifying touchdowns, one by Des Bryant, the last from Jay Cutler to Greg Olsen, and after one, Bears are up 3. Look at those eyes. And I mean, if you're a little kid looking up at that scoreboard here and that screen, put a smile on your face. It is ridiculously big and bright. Dominates the sight lines here in this gigantic stadium in Arlington. First down for the Cowboys, down by 3, and a delayed handoff. That didn't work. Felix Jones goes backward. A loss of 1 on the play, so second down and 11. And as I said when they came on the field, as we welcome you inside our booth, it's time now to see the Dallas Cowboys offense do something. So far it hasn't looked very good.
No, they're out of sync, and I can tell you from experience that offensive football is all about rhythm. It's all about timing, and that's something that this offense has never been able to establish this year, even though a lot of the same players, and every play becomes challenging when you're not just letting it go, and the Cowboys haven't let it go yet this year.
Here's Witten, who had only 3 catches last week. Well, the Cowboys offense looked awful in the preseason. Last week talked about being able to move the ball, but like last year when they were number 2 in the NFL in total yards but just 14th in points scored, they didn't score any more than 7 points against the Redskins and lost the game.
Yeah, and trying to call plays, that's offensive coordinator Jason Garrett, is difficult when you've got, you know, I hate to keep going back to the offensive line, but when you're not protecting the quarterback all that well, when you have penalties, then everything becomes a struggle, and it becomes a struggle for the quarterback because all you're then worried about is getting first downs instead of really reading things out the way you'd like to.
Romo throws, and Roy Williams hit in stride, and then Roy Williams is hit by Chris Harris. A gain of 19. Williams pops up and says first down.
Well, they clear out with the inside guy, Miles Austin, and then they bring Roy Williams right in behind that. You see he's able to get in behind DJ Moore, and Chris Harris is just waiting on him.
Roy Williams, who was a Pro Bowler in '06, under the direction of Mike Martz, his offensive coordinator when he was with the Lions. Play action, Romo over the middle. There's Witten, his favorite target, to the 25. Now the offense looks a little better for Dallas. Game break. Here's Kurt.
Carolina hosting Tampa, down 7-0, going for it on 4th down. Matt Moore, back from that concussion last week, hooking up with Steve Smith. 47 yards on the touchdown to even things early in the second quarter. Joe, Troy, and Pam.
All right, Kurt. Battle in the south. This one between the east and the north. And Witten is good for 16 yards. He led the Cowboys last year with 94 catches. And his 6 straight Pro Bowls. A lot of movement. Kozar was bobbing up and down. And the ball was eventually snapped.
False start. Offense, number 75. 5-yard penalty. First down.
To get Colombo, they could have flagged Kozar.
Well, and one of the things that Tony Romo talked to us about the other day was how excited he was to be finally playing at home and being able to use snap count. Now, we saw Romo at the line of scrimmage. He was killing a play, and that means he's killing a play that was called in the huddle and going to another play. But for a guy like Colombo, who's got Julius Peppers lined up on his outside edge, you start getting a little antsy and trying to get out of there and not come out of your stance slowly, and that time it was too quick.
Now Colombo's got Witten to his right. Quick throw by Romo, and there's Miles Austin, who was thrown out of bounds by Bowman. Miles Austin, who was handed a 6-year contract extension, $54 million deal, 18 of it guaranteed. And last year a Pro Bowler, 81 catches, led the NFC with over 1,300 yards receiving, literally out of nowhere.
This guy's the whole package. I mean, there's nothing that he can't do. He's got great speed, great quickness, exceptional hands, runs good routes. He's a willing blocker. You say, why did he not get on the field then until last year? He's from Monmouth College, and he was a raw talent coming into the league.
And there he is again for the first down, and won't go down. A first down, catch of 7 yards. And here's the completion. Now all of a sudden with a little protection, Romo's able to spread it around, and now the Dallas Cowboys offense looks like the Dallas Cowboys offense.
Well, I think anytime Romo gets to struggling a little bit and wants to get something going, Miles Austin, as far as the receivers go, is the guy who's going to get the attention, and then Jason Witten. And we saw that connection a few plays earlier.
Romo 6 for 6 on this drive. They fake the reverse. Now this one to Gronkowski, and the rookie fullback takes it to the 5. The ball came out, but Gronkowski was down. And the Cowboys want to make sure. You can see Witten saying, let's get to the line right now and get a playoff, because they don't want the Bears to see this replay.
It looked to me like the ball was moving.
And the Bears are going to challenge it.
Yeah, it's a good challenge by Lovie Smith, because it looked to me like the ball was moving, Joe, even though it ultimately came out after his elbow hit the ground. But I don't know that he had the ball secured.
Here's another look. They'll look at it under the hood. We'll get the call when we come back. Chicago challenged it. We all believe that.
After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field is confirmed. The runner's elbow hit the ground with possession of the ball. Chicago is charged with a timeout.
Just going to say we all agree that it would stay with Dallas. And when I say we all, Mike Pereira, who was in charge of the rules for the NFL in years past, as we've talked about a lot, now with us, he's watching, and he kind of takes the fun out of it for us. We're usually guessing, and now you look at the timeouts as Troy highlights it up in the Fox box. Chicago's left with only 1.
Bugman keeps track of those timeouts for us down in the trucks.
Nice. Second down and 4. have a first down. It's 3rd and 1. First guy to hit, Marion Barber, Daniel Manning.
Yeah, they had Des Bryant lined up on the outside one-on-one with Zach Bowman, and Zach Bowman was head up. It looked like there was a lot of field there to maybe come to Des Bryant on the slant. Had a heck of a first game for his start of his career last week with the 8 catches that he had. Nothing really deep down the field.
Got a punt return for a touchdown in this game. Martellus Bennett, the big target, number 80, is in the lineup for Dallas. Instead, it's Barber trying to pick his way. He's got the first down. It's 1st and goal from the 1.
It was a nice play by Brian Urlacher, and it's pretty obvious when you start talking about the struggles that this defense had a year ago and why they happened when you don't have Brian Urlacher in the middle manning that post. But he's been active again here today.
The official on the near sideline ran in on the other side of our unofficial yellow line. They call for a measurement, and by the nose of the football, it's 1st and goal from the 1. Well, Lovie Smith's team couldn't do it to the Detroit defense last week at home, and now he's wondering if his defense can hold Dallas out with a 1st and goal from the 1-yard line.
Well, normally in this situation, play action, but because they have struggled so much to come away with points, only 1 touchdown last week, I'd be surprised if they just don't hand it off to Marion Barber.
Spears back in. He'll block for Barber. And Barber does not get in.
Looked like Julius Peppers came down, and he's the one who was able to get a hand there on Marion Barber as he started to go over, because if Marion Barber had stayed on the ground running, you're going to see Peppers here who comes across, and he's the one who's just able to get enough of Marion Barber, but there was a pretty good push in the middle there by that Cowboys offensive line.
2nd and goal. Play action, Gronkowski wide open. Touchdown. First touchdown for the rookie, Chris Gronkowski.
Marion Barber gets absolutely run over by Julius Peppers, but it worked. And it gave Romo time to get the ball out to Gronkowski then for the touchdown. I'll make sure that Marion Barber's okay.
And now it's 14-10 Dallas. Chris Gronkowski, brother of Rob Gronkowski. Good rookie tight end for the New England Patriots, number 44. He's in for his first score. Dallas up by 4. 13-play drive. That was a good one. Engineered by Garrett on the sideline. Tony Romo at the controls, and eventually into the hands of Chris Gronkowski. Last week at Washington, the Cowboys had 3 10-play drives that led to no points. Marched it down the field, and they're in, and Romo 8 for 8 on that possession. Daniel Manning from the 5. Gets to the sideline, and now thought about taking it back into the heart of the field. Can get just to the 25, maybe just beyond. Church on the stop. Tony Romo celebrates. Gronkowski, what a moment for him. Undrafted rookie free agent in for the score.
Today's game is sponsored by Chevrolet. Every model is backed by a 100,000-mile, 5-year powertrain limited warranty.
Been some action in this first half. Quick throws. led to success for Cutler last time the Bears had it. Now they drop back. Penalty flag as Olsen right down the middle. Takes it into Dallas territory, but a flag is thrown back near the 27.
Really a nice throw there by Jay Cutler.
Illegal formation, offense. The tight end was covered by the wide receiver. It's a 5-yard penalty, first down.
Give me the offensive leaders for the Chicago Bears. Cutler has started 4 for 6. Been under heavy pressure. Running game has done nothing for Chicago. Olsen has a 39-yard touchdown catch and just had one wiped away.
And there's no excuse for the penalty that they just had. You know, receiver, when he looks down and sees that he's got a tight end to his side, he's got to get off the ball.
Now both Forte and Chester Taylor in the backfield. That's Forte at the top of the screen. He gets it, and he is hit by who else? DeMarcus Ware is everywhere.
Maybe he is Superman.
Let's go for a game break. Here's Kurt.
Well, the old Superman, Brett Favre, trying to hook up with Percy Harvin and get the Vikings on the scoreboard, but follow the bouncing ball. Vontae Davis does, right into his arm for an interception at the 1-yard line. Dolphins still holding on, less than 2 minutes to go in the first half. Joe, Troy, and Pam.
Wow. So knocking on the door, but can't get it in. The Vikings, and now it's 2nd and 17.
Yeah, now the Bears are going to be showing a 5-man protection.
Spencer does not come on a blitz. Pass over the middle. Knox is dragged down immediately by Brady James. You get into 2nd and long, 3rd and long with this offensive line against the Dallas defense, and it doesn't matter what play Mike Martz is going to think up on the sideline. The protection, you just feel at this point, isn't going to hold up.
It's a defense that's very difficult to get big plays against, and so when you have a play like they were able to get to Greg Olsen down the middle, and you have that nullified by a very careless mistake by a wide receiver, you know, it just puts you behind, and this defense doesn't allow you to recover from those types of mistakes very often.
What a jump. Spencer got off the line, and now Ratliff can't get there. Cutler down the middle, right in stride to Johnny Knox. The protection did hold up, and 59 yards to number 13, Johnny Knox.
Cowboys go 4 cross zone. You're going to see Johnny Knox. He's in the slot position, and they release that. That's something that Mike Martz likes to do, stack those guys on the release. Jenkins got a little careless on the outside. He was anticipating an inside break. Jenkins, one of the fastest players on this team. I think he underestimated how fast Johnny Knox is.
Johnny Knox, who was a Pro Bowler last year, had one drop right into his arms from Jay Cutler. 59 yards on 3rd and 15.
I tell you, for Cutler to get that ball out there, that showed off the kind of arm strength he has.
Just got that play away, and now stumbling but making the catch somehow is Chester Taylor, who gets 9.
That was a heck of a play there by Chester Taylor. You're right. He was stumbling, and you know how he was able to pick up the ball in flight and haul that one in. That's a pretty good move there by Chester Taylor, and a good acquisition by the Chicago Bears. A guy who was a 3rd down back last year for the Minnesota Vikings. This is really what he does so well, is as a receiving running back. But those are things that Matt Forte, as we saw last week, he does awfully well as also.
Second and 1. Handoff is to Forte. Spencer can't bring down Forte before he gets a first down.
I'll tell you, the one thing you do know, though, is when you're going up against an offense coached by Mike Martz, they're going to spread you out, and they're not only going to spread you out horizontally, but they're going to take some shots vertically down the field. He probably takes more shots, or gives his team an opportunity to take more shots for big plays than any other play caller that I've seen. I think he does a tremendous job of really being aggressive with his play calling, and it doesn't much matter whether the quarterback's getting hit or not. He's not going to change his style.
1st and goal. Cutler with all day. Back in the end zone. What a catch. Devin Hester, touchdown. What a grab.
Devin Hester hauls this one in. A heck of a grab. One arm, reels it in, has control, gets his feet down, and a good route by Devin Hester. We all know he came in as a return guy, a defensive back. They made the transition with him to wide receiver, starting to get a little more polished with those routes.
Now the Cowboys are going to challenge. Whether Hester got both feet down. It's interesting with the kind of turf they have here. You could see almost a trail behind the right foot of Devin Hester's. He was dragging it the entire way.
Well, I don't think there was any
Dallas
question.
is challenging the ruling on the field that it's a touchdown.
And guess what? He maintained possession all the way, going to the ground.
That's important these days.
Lions know that. Challenge from the Cowboys. Here's the call.
After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field is confirmed. The receiver had possession, got both feet down, inbounds, touchdown.
And it's the
Dallas is charged with a timeout.
fourth lead change of this first half. What a catch.
You know, you saw Wade Phillips. He was demonstrating that he thought that Devin Hester was bobbling the ball. I didn't see that at all. I thought that that was one heck of a play, and obviously it was confirmed, but it was as good a route as it was catch.
And it's a 3-point Chicago Bear lead. What a game. Good one. Bears, Cowboys. Cutler got protection. Dallas didn't blitz. Jay Cutler took care of the rest. 17-14 Chicago. We'll say it today and we'll say it all year long. Welcome aboard to all of you watching Fox NFL Sunday on AFN, the American Forces Network, in 175 countries and aboard 140 ships at sea. Proud to have you with us, and we want you to know that we are behind you, thinking of you, and trying to bring you a little taste of home while you serve your country. Gold hits it. Owusu Ansah will take a knee. Well, do you remember last season on House? It ended with a bombshell. Tomorrow night on Fox, House returns with an all-new season of shocks, surprises, and a premiere that will have everyone talking. Prepare for complications. It's the season premiere of House tomorrow night at 8 Eastern, 7 Central, here on Fox. So now the Dallas Cowboys have 3:38, 2 timeouts remaining. Try and do something about this Chicago 3-point lead, and they're the offensive leaders for Dallas.
Sure didn't expect to see Gronkowski as the leading receiver at this point. Not sure he did either.
He got the touchdown.
Yeah.
Romo's second touchdown throw of the season. Plenty of time on the clock. Protection for Romo, and the pass might have been tipped. It was behind Miles Austin, and we talk about protection. We have so much for Chicago. Back to the touchdown.
Yeah, well, we've talked about a lack of when it's come to them, but they do an excellent job on this touchdown pass by Jay Cutler, and probably the best protection was afforded by Wade Phillips because DeMarcus Ware was not on the field. He was on the sidelines next to him, and you know, every time DeMarcus has been rushing, he doesn't rush every time because in this 3-4 scheme, you've got to drop him into coverage at times so that they're not putting protection always on him. But he wasn't in the game on that touchdown throw by Jay Cutler.
On 2nd and 10, pass complete to Austin, and he spins for a first down. I would imagine, Troy, you would have liked to throw the ball to Miles Austin, who gets his hands away from his body and secures a catch like that.
Well, it was perfect right there on that last route because everything that he does is done with urgency. And as a quarterback, you're looking for distinguished moves within a receiver's route to know when to turn the ball loose. And because he does with everything with such great quickness, he's a very quarterback-friendly receiver. That's one of the things that has plagued Roy Williams. He doesn't run it with quite the precision And so because of that, the chemistry between Romo and Roy Williams has not quite been as good as what it is with Miles Austin.
Romo has to move. Witten gets drilled. That's Tino Isamoa on the tackle, a gain of 3. It's good to be Miles Austin these days. Over 1,300 receiving yards since week 5 last season, most in the NFL. Signed a 6-year, $56 million contract extension earlier this month, $18 million guaranteed. Big guns, abs, everything. He's showing it all off. The October edition of Muscle and Fitness.
He and I have the same ab trainer.
Really. 2nd and 7. Romo throws, and there's Austin right in the middle of it all, behind Urlacher and in front of Manning. 19 yards and a first down.
Well, they hooked Jason Witten up over the ball, and then they're able to put Miles Austin in behind that. So Lance Briggs is the linebacker that they're working off of. He can't be right. If he comes up and takes Jason Witten, then you've got Miles Austin behind him and in front of the safeties. And because of the rapport, as I was talking about, between he and Tony Romo, I mean, it is obvious that he knows where Miles Austin is going to be at all times.
Total yards split even at 150 each. 2-minute warning here in Texas. Tony Romo started this game 1 for 4 with a pick. He's completed 12 of his last 13 throws with a touchdown. Now first down, good pocket, throws high and incomplete. Jason Witten, the intended receiver. Visa halftime's coming up. Kurt, Terry, Howie, Michael, and Jimmy. Well, scores and highlights. Fox Sports Ticker will keep you updated with up to the second stats. 2nd down and 10. Julius Peppers is not on the field for the Chicago defense. Pass is dropped just after talking about Austin being a quarterback-friendly receiver and his hands out. He can't secure it before he turns upfield. It's 3rd and 10.
You don't see that very often. You know, he's about as sure-handed a guy as there is on this team. You know, and because he is so fast, and defenses have to respect that, it really is a double-edged sword, because he's able to run by people, but then also when they do respect it, it gives them a lot of field to work with underneath.
Cowboys are 3 for 4 on 3rd down. That one is in the air and picked off again by DJ Moore. Another one batted right into his lap, and it's a turnover by Dallas. Off the hand of Witten and into the gut of DJ Moore, his 2nd of the game.
Well, it was a good idea by Tony Romo and a good route by Jason Witten. He's going to come up and come out of that route, but Tony throws it with great anticipation. It just is behind Jason Witten. You know, if he gets that ball out in front, it's an easy completion to Jason Witten, but because it's behind him, Witten throws the hand up, and then the deflection with DJ Moore there for yet another interception.
And so now we'll look at the Chicago offense. Remember the 59-yard completion to Johnny Knox. No blitz by Dallas. 4-man rush. And then on the 9-yard touchdown to Hester. 4-man rush. Now Ware's back on the field. Chicago with 1 timeout. Pass over the middle's caught by Forte, and he spins his way down inside the 35. That's gain of 14.
Yeah, that's good stuff right there, because Matt Forte is, you know, even though he was the 2nd leading receiver last year, he's going to get even more opportunities this year on those types of things coming out of the backfield, like what we saw from Marshall Faulk with the Rams and Mike Marks.
On first down, that's Bennett. And Earl has his first catch of the season, good for 7. First 3 possessions, not just 13 yards and a field goal, but a lot of hits on Jay Cutler. The last 2, it's been a conventional rush by the Dallas Cowboys, and kind of taking the foot off the gas pedal a little bit defensively, pressuring Cutler. 2nd and 3. Now they blitz, and Cutler flips it for Forte. Pass was well beyond his reach as Forte was hit by Alan Ball.
Well, that time the Bears decide they're going to release 5 receivers, so they're going to have a 5-man protection, and the Cowboys want to try to pressure that, and they brought 5 rushers, and they held up pretty well. And as you said, DeMarcus Ware has done a heck of a job here in this first half of creating some of that pressure. You know, you kind of knew coming into this game, Joe, that Dallas defensively, as good as they were last week, that they were going to be tested against this Mike Martz coached offense.
Bennett out of the backfield. Good little flip from Cutler, and a tackle by Newman. It depends on the spot. Interesting play. And on 3rd down, just inches short of a first down, is Earl Bennett.
Interesting to see here what Lovie Smith does. You know, of course, last week criticized for not taking the points. They're in field goal range here, but I don't know. I think that, you know, if you go for it last week, I'm not so sure you don't go for it here. A very well thrown ball by Jay Cutler. You know, not an easy throw. And that's one of those blitz beaters that Martz likes to put into his offense, to where they brought pressure off the edge. You've got a back then free releasing, and then Cutler's got to be able to put the ball in his hands in stride, and he did that perfectly.
They've already signaled 4th down. Bennett was just short of the marker. They're going to bring the chains out to help him spot it back in the middle of the field. And that's how far they have to go. Remember, 1 timeout. And now no timeouts on the board for the Chicago Bears, and right now their offense is on the field. They're going to go for it.
Yeah, you know, last week in that situation they were behind, and they had gotten down into the 1-yard line area and trying to punch it in for a touchdown. I felt that, you know, they probably should have kicked the field goal there. Conventional coaching would tell you they should have done that. He had a belief in his offensive line. They didn't get it done. But if you go for it there, then I think you go for it here with a 3-point lead, with an opportunity to potentially come away with a touchdown here before the half.
So even with the measurement, the Bears just took their last time out. Looks like the ball's already enough for a first down.
Looks like they're going to try to draw them off sides.
Cutler takes it, plows ahead, and gets the first down.
You know, the way Cutler was standing there, you saw that left foot backed all the way out. And the way he was going through his cadence, it looked like, well, maybe they would just try to draw him off sides, and if they couldn't, then they would settle for the field goal. But I guess he was standing that way just so that he could get some momentum going forward. Now, he always puts his left foot back, but it was back a lot further than where it was in normal down and distances.
Well, they're going to bring the chains out. The ball's all the way across that yard line. I mean, it seems to clearly be a first down, but they stop the clock, which is a little break for the Chicago Bears as they get to reset in the huddle as they're left without any timeouts. Romo's had 2 tipped balls go for interceptions. He's hot over on the sideline while the Bears try to add to their lead before half.
You know, it could also be good for the Cowboys because they're able to regroup, and if they wanted to, they could have called a blitz during that measurement as well.
They're coming. Scandrick doesn't get there, and the pass batted away by Jenkins in the direction of Earl Bennett, and a good play by number 21.
Yeah, it was a good play because Cutler's just retreating and threw it up to try to give Earl Bennett an opportunity just to come down with the ball. Had Cutler been able to put anything more on this throw, then Bennett may have been able to plant his foot in the ground and come back and make the play. But Mike Jenkins, a good job of knocking it out.
2nd and 10, 36 seconds left. Another blitz. Cutler over the middle. It's tipped off the hands of Devin Hester. And it fell to the turf. It's 3rd and 10.
They're certainly paying attention to DeMarcus Ware on that backside. Two guys in again this time to protect him. And Devin Hester, and he's the perfect type of receiver. I mean, he's still got some refinement to do within his route running, but he's the perfect guy as far as what they like to do within this scheme. Receivers with speed to threaten defenders.
Another blitz. Dallas doesn't get there, and Cutler throws it out of the back of the end zone. So that time the Cowboys went back to the blitz. Every time Cutler dropped back and it stalls, the drive does. We'll see a 40-yard field goal attempt come from Robbie Gould.
This is a defense that is hard to score points against. Last year they were second in the National Football League in points given up, and so for them to get the ball in this position to try to come away with 3 before the end of the half is not all bad.
And Gould drills it. Couple of very good tight ends involved in this game with Wick and Olsen. Our Then and Now feature takes a look at former Cowboy Doug Cosby. Sure-handed tight end from Palo Alto, California. Played 10 seasons for Dallas. 300 receptions, 15 touchdowns in his career. Now 54. Businessman, lives in Northern California. Keeps busy by helping coach the tight ends at Menlo College, Silicon Valley.
And one of the all-time great guys. A great teammate. I didn't play with him, but in talking with those that did, and he played at a time when you didn't have the Jason Wittens and the Jay Novaceks and Antonio Gates and those types of guys, and he was a real receiving threat, a guy who could really run, as a position in that day that was predominantly just utilized as a blocker.
Well, you look at the score and then think back to week 1 with the Dallas Cowboys and what happened to them at the end of the first half, with a fumble by Tashard Choice returned for a touchdown, made it a 10-0 game. The Cowboys could never recover. Owusu Ansah will take a knee. 20 seconds left, 2 timeouts, but I would imagine that the Dallas Cowboys will be content with a 6-point game, but I guess these days you can never be too sure.
Well, I think in light of last week, I think they may just be happy with taking a knee. And you think back to last week's play, and all Cowboy fans certainly have been dwelling on it all week long. A lot of mistakes at a lot of different levels as to why that play was run. The one guy who, in my opinion, shouldn't be faulted at all was the guy who fumbled, Tashard Choice. I mean, he got stood up, and they just mauled him to get the ball out of his hands. In fact, that was his first fumble of his NFL career.
And 199 touches. Well, so the Cowboys do just take a knee. That's it for the first half of football. 2014, and an impressive showing by the Chicago offense once they were able to protect Jay Cutler. In the books, a half to go. 20-14 as we start the third quarter. And Robbie Gould drills it. Owusu Ansah from the end zone. And the rookie carries it back across the 25. Pretty good return as he gets across the 30. Ball comes out. They whistled the play dead. And decent starting field position for the Cowboys. We go down to the field and visit with Pam Oliver.
Well, Joe, as you know, Wade Phillips preached all week that we can't have that many mistakes. Well, it's too late for that, and I asked how he's going to continue to overcome that. He said simply that we'll be fine. He also wants to get more pressure on Jay Cutler. Lovie Smith, in the meantime, talked about adjustments along his offensive line. He says we're just keeping guys in to chip them on the outside. His message at halftime, keep those turnovers coming.
All right, Pam, well, the Bears lost Chris Williams early. They've had Schaefer in the lineup. They've moved Frank Omiyale to left tackle. Meanwhile, the Cowboy offense is Scored a total of 7 points in the first half, and here's a pass caught by the rookie Des Bryant. He already has a punt return for a touchdown. Bowman can't rip it out of his arms, and a 24-yard catch and run by number 88.
They call that the 4 route in this offense. It's a square in by Des Bryant. He's going to push Tillman up the field and then just break it off and then expect it right around the numbers, and that's exactly where he's able to make the catch. You know, Des Bryant, as we said last week, he caught a lot of short underneath throws, and typically for a young receiver you'll see that in addition to the deeper throws, but this time they threw it to him intermediately.
Now they've got the Razorback formation with Tashard Choice getting it on the snap. They fake the handoff, and Urlacher is right there to bring down Choice. No gain on the play.
If you're going to run that, Brian Urlacher is probably a guy that you'd like to block if you're going to run it right up the middle. And they tried pulling. It looked like it was Kyle Kozar. They tried pulling up inside to take Urlacher, but he just overran it, and Urlacher was unblocked to make the play.
2nd and 10. Out of bounds at the 35. The scoring is odd for Dallas, and they are trying to put more points up on the board here as we look at that play.
We're going to see Tommy Harris here in the middle, number 91, and a guy who really has a lot of potential and a lot of talent, but did not have a very good year last year, was very inconsistent, and he's someone that they really need to dominate there in that position. With this Lovie Smith defensive scheme, that 3 technique, the guy who lines up on the shade of the guard, he's got to be more of a factor than Tommy Harris has been.
3rd down and 4. Romo steps up and throws for Roy Williams. Tillman had fallen down, and a 1st down for the Cowboys inside the 20. 19-yard completion on 3rd down to Roy Williams.
Tight coverage on the outside by Charles Tillman, but yes, at the top of that he slips, and it was a good route by Roy Williams. I'm not sure that Charles Tillman would have been able to make much of a play on that anyway, but he does a nice job after falling down of coming back onto his feet and then making the tackle.
Cowboys inside the red zone. Romo over the middle, and Martellus Bennett wasn't looking for it. Let's go for a game break. Here's Kurt.
Well, as of now, it's Michael Vick starting for the injured Kevin Cobb, but after this, his 2nd touchdown of the first half to Jeremy Maclin, put the Eagles on top, 21-17. You guys, you got to wonder what happens next week when Cobb come back, even though Andy Reid's on record saying it's Cobb's job no matter what. Joe, Troy, and Pam?
He's in a bind. I mean, if he's going to move the offense like that, and you get the players believing in Vick, tough to make the switch if he's able to move the ball up and down the field as he's done here, as he did last week. Leonard Davis moved at right tackle, or right guard rather.
You know, I agree.
False start. Offense number 70. 5-yard penalty. 2nd down.
I agree, Joe. That's a hard change to make when you're talking about an unproven quarterback in Kevin Cobb, but yet I think it's a move he will make. And then it's just a question of, will Kevin Cobb play well enough to keep the job? Because what it does is it then puts Kevin Cobb on an even shorter leash, because Andy Reid would then be quick to make a change if he struggles like he did in that first half last week against the Packers.
2nd down and 15. And the pass caught by Bennett. Wasn't looking for it the last time Romo threw to him, and now Martellus Bennett all 6.
Bennett to become a bigger part of the passing game. He's done a nice job in his development as a blocker, but I know going into last season he was so impressive throughout the offseason workouts and then throughout training camp that they expected him to have a breakout year in 09, and it just didn't happen for him. He only had 15 catches last season, but you add another receiving threat to what they already had. I don't know that they've got enough balls for all of them.
Romo on 3rd down pumps it, trying to get away from Peppers, and just flips it. Catch is made by Bennett, but he is short of a 1st down, just getting to the 10. And it's 4th down, and that's Romo doing whatever he can to try and make something happen. field goal unit will come on for the Cowboys.
Well, you see Peppers here, and they keep Marion Barber in to chip and give him some help, and there was plenty of time. It's actually not a bad job there by Mark Colombo or Marion Barber, but because things didn't open up right away for Tony Romo, he was holding the ball, and then eventually any good pass rusher is going to be able to get to the quarterback, as Peppers did.
And now the unproven place kicker David Beeler will try it from 28. He missed last week in Washington, and he's good here. 3-point game. And a conversation between Romo and Jason Garrett, the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys. 2017 Chicago.
Today's game is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. By the new KFC Double Down. By the Dodge Challenger. Visit your local Dodge dealer today. And by Bud Light Lime, the just right taste of Bud Light with a refreshing splash of 100% natural lime flavor.
David Beeler, who just kicked first field goal of his NFL career, will boom it. He's got a big leg. There's the scoring drive, 8 plays, 56 yards off the second half kickoff. And now Chicago will get it back. Daniel Manning is waiting, and he'll take it out. And Daniel Manning can't make the 20. Brought down by Alan Ball. Julius Peppers, his first year as a Chicago Bear, shaking his head back to the sideline after the Cowboys put up 3. Last 3 possessions a lot better for the for the Chicago Bears. Off the blitz, Cutler's been able to settle in, and there's really no changeup from this look offensively for Chicago. The run game is non-existent to this point for the Bears. Spencer's coming. Screen for Forte. Blocking out in front of him, and a good play by DeMarcus Ware. Look how far down the field Ware is as he was covering Chester Taylor. A 17-yard catch and run by Forte.
And Jay Cutler's getting real tired of picking himself up off the ground on most pass plays. This is a screen, so sometimes those linemen give it up a little bit too early. And Anthony Spencer is the guy who come in and clubbed him on that one. But they ran a lot of screens last week with great success. Of course, the big touchdown throw and catch there with Jay Cutler to Matt Forte in that game. And they've got to go to that again this week, and likely every week, because of some of the pressure that Jay Cutler has been experiencing.
Here's a carry by Forte, and a good one. Matt Forte, a first down as he picks up 13. Anthony Spencer on the tackle.
And I think that's the part of it, Joe, that they've really got to be able to get going, because the Bears really like Matt Forte, and they think that he's a heck of a runner, and I think he's a good player as well. Well, you can't say your offensive line is good and your running back is good and not run the ball any better than what they have with Matt Forte. Since he's been in the league his first 2 years, he averaged under 4 yards a carry. Last week and today, he has been averaging under 3 yards a carry. So that's got to get better, and that offensive line's got to start creating some more movement more consistently, as they did on the last play.
Drive started at the 17. Delayed handoff to Chester Taylor. And Taylor is eventually dragged down by Terrence Newman, a gain of 4.
They were lucky to get much of anything out of that one, because it looked like there was a little confusion there with that handoff. You know, looking at this offense, Joe, I think it's worth noting that when Lovie Smith got the job, he wanted, you know, he had been the defensive coordinator with the St. Louis Rams and Mike Martz. And he wanted an offensive attack like what they ran there in St. Louis, wide open, go after him and be aggressive. And he hired Terry Shea from the Kansas City Chiefs as his first offensive coordinator. That didn't go so well, but now he has the guy, the architect of that offense in St. Louis, and I think they're doing the things now offensively that Lovie Smith had always envisioned.
Empty backfield on 2nd and 6 down the sideline. Pass is off the hands of Devin Hester. Covered downfield by Terrence Newman. Now it's 3rd and 6.
Terrence Newman's stride for stride there with Devin Hester. That's saying something. A well-thrown ball. I tell you, Jay Cutler today has made some outstanding throws down the field. And we saw the ball that he laid out there for Johnny Knox. A perfectly thrown pass.
Timeout taken by Cutler. Wants the play to come in quicker. He'll have to go to the sideline and talk about a 3rd and 6, which we'll have when we come back.
Today's game on Fox is sponsored by Verizon, the official wireless service provider of the NFL.
Crowd gets into it on 3rd and 6. Cutler with time, hits Forte. What a good play by Sensabaugh. A yard and a half shy of a first down because of a sure tackle by number 43.
There's not a lot of guys that can match up very well with Matt Forte in man coverage, a safety or a linebacker, but Gerald Sensabaugh is one of those guys. He was a nickel corner during his, or a nickel player on the slot during his time there in Jacksonville, and he matches up well against these types of guys, whether it be a running back or a tight end. Last week he was paired up with Chris Cooley with the Washington Redskins and did a nice job on him throughout that game.
Owusu Ansah is waiting for the punt for Maynard. And a fair catch. Hauled in at the 13-yard line. 31-yard punt, nothing on the return. Dallas offense back to the field as they trail by 3. A comparison of the two quarterbacks. This is the worst starting field position for the Cowboys in the game as they'll start at their own 13. And Dallas is trying to avoid an 0-2 start for the first time since 2001, which was the first year PT post Troy. Quincy Carter and Anthony Wright, the quarterbacks. Ryan Leaf was on that team, a 5-11 season. As Romo throws, and too low for Miles Austin. What is on the slate for the NFL on Fox next week? Troy, Pam, and I will be in Houston for the Cowboys and the Texans. Lions and Vikings, Falcons, Saints, 49ers and Chiefs, Redskins and Rams. Check your local listings. The game and time in your area. 2nd down and 10. Felix Jones. Idonije made that play. A loss of 2. Tino Isamoah gets the tackle, but Israel Idonije, number 71, got upfield and put the brakes on that effort by Felix Jones.
Boy, you're not kidding. I mean, he does a good job of coming off the edge, taking on the block, and then once he disrupts the timing, good pressure then on that backside.
Felix Jones is not a factor in this game at all, running at 5 carries, no yards. Not much on the ground on either side.
And the Cowboys came into this game not really expecting to be able to run the ball all that well. They were right.
3rd down and 12. Romo has to step up, and he finds Dez Bryant. He's been impressive. Romo looked short to Tashard Choice. God, he just looked like Michael Irvin, didn't he? With that reaction, here's that fake to Choice, and then downfield to number 88.
And Romo's able to buy some time. He actually could have just tucked it and picked up some pretty good yards running the ball, but because of the coverage, that's that 2 deep. That's the hole within that 2 deep zone coverage. And Romo, you saw him pump to the flat to get the corner to stay shallow, and it opened it up even more to Dez Bryant.
28 yards on 3rd and 12. Here's Roy Williams, good throw, and then he gets hit. Every time Roy Williams has had his hands on the ball, he has gotten smacked, but he gets right up. Lance Briggs with the hit, a gain of 12.
I think that's some of the things that Roy Williams does well, is when he's able to run the shorter routes, get inside, and you know, he's such a big target. You see the helmet-to-helmet contact there with Briggs and Peppers. You know, how would you like to be Mark Colombo, a guy who hasn't practiced all that much here in several weeks, and you get the assignment of trying to block Julius Peppers?
On first down, Romo has to just get rid of it, and then he gets plastered. Gronkowski, the intended receiver, and pressured by Bowman coming off the edge.
You know, they protect the quarterback so much with the rules that I'm almost a little surprised they didn't throw a flag on that one. You saw the initial contact was made on the shoulder pad. You see Romo also, he's trying to signal to the referee that it was to the helmet. But usually when you see that kind of action right there, you're going to get a flag every time. Bears were fortunate not to get one there.
Romo was calling for it before he hit the ground. As he spun, didn't get the flag, and it's 2nd and 10. Romo to the sideline. That's Austin. He went backward after the catch, and he'll be short of a first down. A gain of 9.
Well, you watch Miles Austin. I talked about how fast he is down the field and how quick he is out of breaks. One-on-one here on Charles Tillman. Charles Tillman's in good position there, and that's why he slipped. We've seen Charles Tillman now slip a couple of times when he's been in coverage on Miles Austin, and I think it has mostly to do with the fact that Miles is able to threaten you so quickly down the field that you just can't come out of the break and drive on the ball as quickly as what Miles Austin is able to do.
3rd down and 1. Here's Barber, and Marion Barber depends on the spot. Right up to the line. We'll have a measurement. While they do that, talk about the scoring and all these weapons that the Dallas Cowboys have. They've not scored more than 24 points in 10 straight games. After scoring 24 or more in 5 of the first 7 games last year. And while they were number 2 in the NFL in total yardage last season, they were 14th in points. And it's a first down by a millimeter. Tony Romo is coming off a record-setting year last season. Cowboys record over 4,400 passing yards, 347 completions, also a Dallas record. Went to the Pro Bowl for the 3rd time. But they've now scored this offense in 6 quarters. Now into the 7th, only 2 touchdowns. And they trail by 3. Play action from Romo, and the pass. He and Williams not on the same page. Let's go for a game break. Here's Kurt.
Well, the Vikings find a way to get on the board. Rookie Williams fumbles, recovered at the 1-yard line, and 2 plays later, they rely on their guy, Adrian Peterson, to take it in for the score. First touchdown of the year for Peterson. First of the game for the Vikings. They're still down by 7 in the 4th quarter, though. Joe, Troy, and Payne.
All right, Kurt, 2nd down and 10 here. Here's Barber. Toina made the hit. Filled the hole nicely, and Marion Barber gets only 2.
You know, the Cowboys, as we know, they've not run the ball very well here today. And when the Bears have put an extra defender down in run support, they've been very effective with that. And they've also been effective in keeping the Cowboys from being able to create any big plays because of pressure at times on Romo. When Romo has had time to throw the ball and they've been manned up outside with single coverage, you know, there's been a lot of places for Tony to throw the football, and they've gotten a lot of completions off of that. So if they're going to play single high safety and play against the run, they've got to get pressure on Romo.
Here's a quick throw, and it's behind Roy Williams. Now it's 4th and 8 with the ball at the 37-yard line.
You know, this is one that Tony certainly wanted to try to get out in front of Roy Williams. It's a scary throw for a quarterback when it's happening that fast and not being certain as to what type of defender is out in front of him. So there's a tendency then for a quarterback to try to pull him up a little bit. Roy was streaking through the window, and Romo just failed to get it out in front of him.
McBriar hits it. The Cowboys pass on a 55-yard field goal try by Beeler. McBriar hits it into the end zone. The Bears will have it at their own 20 as they lead it by 3. Dallas Cowboys just had another 10-play drive that led to 0 points. And after that punt, passing on a 55-yard field goal try by Beeler, only a net gain of 17 yards of field position for Dallas. As Cutler has time and he hits Devin Hester for 10.
There was time to throw there for Jay Cutler, and part of that is because the Bears do a good job on Jay Ratliff right there in the middle of your screen. They got attention from Lance Lewis at right guard, and then you get a little help with Matt Forte, and then of course on the backside Frank Omiel, who, you know, as we talked about earlier, began this game at right tackle, but because of the injury to Chris Williams has been asked to make the switch to the left side.
Delayed handoff to Forte. Gain of just 2. Sensible on the tackle.
You know, I thought Mike Martz last week did a pretty good job against Detroit. In fact, an excellent job. When they weren't running the ball well, he continued to stick with the run, and he didn't abandon it, which makes it really hard on a quarterback, especially against a defense with pass rushers like the Cowboys have. And he stuck with it again in this game. You know, I just have immense respect for Mike Martz and what he's able to do as an offensive guy and the opportunities he gives his players. But I think that in these 2 games, this game and a half that we've seen of him calling plays for the Bears, I think he's done a great job of trying to maintain some balance.
A lot of guys coming on a blitz. Cutler throws over the head of Hester and short of Olsen. And a penalty flag on a hit by Olshansky on Cutler.
Personal foul. Roughing the passer, 99 defense, 15-yard penalty, first down.
You know, you're going to see Olshansky 99 at the end. The ball's out. He goes to tackle, and I think it's that move right there of putting him on the ground rather than just taking the left arm off of him that drew the flag. And I know that, you know, if you're a Bears fan, you love it. If you're a Cowboys fan, you're enraged. And it doesn't take much to get the flag. We saw that Chicago did not get called on the hit on Romo. That was probably just as severe or as significant as what that call was there on Olshansky.
Gives the Bears a first down. DeMarcus Ware gets his hands on Cutler. And the pass is incomplete. Devin Hester, the closest one to it, but Cutler was just trying to survive.
DeMarcus Ware is just such a special player. I mean, a guy who was a defensive end in college at Troy and comes to the Cowboys and is asked to be a stand-up outside linebacker in a 3-4 scheme, as so many guys are now, and he can do it all. I mean, you'd think that, well, maybe he doesn't play the run very well. He plays the run exceptionally well. And of course, we all know what he's able to do as a pass rusher, and he's become a pretty good cover guy for what they ask of him.
Coming off a mild concussion last week against the Redskins. Here's a blitz, and the Bears run right into it. Matt Forte, a loss of 1. And so now Cutler is back in that spot. 3rd down and 11. You have to expect the Dallas Cowboys will bring extra on the rush. When they have blitzed, they have had success against number 6.
Yeah, this will be interesting to see what Mike Martz does. Anticipating blitz, does he try to block him up? I get the feeling right now that Mike Martz is going to want to take a shot and not just be happy with picking up the first down at the sticks. I just sense that he's going to try to do something a little bit more creative down the field.
Cowboys do not blitz. Ware gets there anyway. The pass is complete to Bennett, but a good play by Skandrick. Short of a first down is Earl Bennett, a gain of just 7.
Well, again, DeMarcus Ware, we've been talking about him a lot. And the protection, not bad, obviously. Part of this offense is that the ball is going to get out. So sometimes what looks like an unblocked guy is not a real big problem for this type of offense because it's based on the quarterback hitting his back foot and getting it out of his hands.
Owusu Ansah is waiting for the punt. Maynard hits it over the head of Ansah and into the end zone. Owusu Ansah is a rookie, and they are trusting him, returning punts and kicks. Tomorrow, CYUSA Today calls Lone Star the best new show of the fall. A con man will use every trick he knows to keep his world of lies from crumbling around him. One man, two lives, the perfect con. Don't miss the Lone Star series premiere After House tomorrow right here on Fox. The offensive leaders, 6 catches, 66 yards for Miles Austin. 2 tip balls that went for interceptions on the record of Tony Romo.
Gronkowski no longer the leading receiver.
No. Right now in at fullback in front of Felix Jones, who gets it. And Jones picks up 3. And that'll do it for the third quarter here in Arlington. Only 3 points scored. Dallas now down 20-17 as we go to the fourth. NFL on Fox will continue after this from your local Fox station. One of 3 former head coaches on this staff. That's Rod Marinelli. He's the defensive coordinator for Lovie Smith. They were together with the Bucs. Mike Tice was head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. And obviously Mike Martz in his time putting together the greatest show on turf in St. Louis. It's 2nd down and 7 as we start the fourth quarter in a 3-point game. Romo with protection over the middle hits Witten. And Witten has a first down for Dallas. We go to Kurt for the game break.
Rod Marinelli's old Lions team had a 17-7 lead once against the Eagles, but LaShawn McCoy's 2nd rushing touchdown of the game put Philadelphia up 28-17, 21 unanswered by the Eagles. And by the way, Joe, Troy, and Pam, Vic 251 yards passing, 40 rushing.
You see a lot of teams like that aren't real good trying to learn how to win, and it's one thing to get a lead. It's hard for those types of teams to really learn how to finish games, and that's what the Lions are being faced. We saw it last week, and we're seeing it again this weekend.
On first down, delayed handoff. Felix Jones shows some of his speed, gets to the 35, picked up 4. Tillman on the tackle.
I know that running back situation for Dallas is kind of still being sorted out as they know what each guy can do. Marion Barber, he's the physical one. Tashard Choice, he's primarily your 3rd down back, and then you've got Felix Jones, who's explosive out in space. But how do you then utilize those guys during the course of a game, especially when you're trying to get this guy 28 as many carries as possible?
That was Colombo at right tackle.
False start. Offense number 75. 5-yard penalty. 2nd down.
You look at the 3 running backs for the Dallas Cowboys. Marion Barber, 10 touches, 38 total yards. Felix Jones, really nothing. And Tashard Choice has touched it only twice. Cowboys as a team are averaging 2.1 yards per carry. Here's Jones, and he drew a crowd. Gain of 3.
That's the kind of defense that we were used to seeing from the Chicago Bears back when they made their run to the Super Bowl. That there they were in that 2-deep shell, so the only place Romo had to go with the football was underneath. He hits Felix Jones, and then you see about 4 or 5 dark-colored jerseys and helmets converging, as you said, on him and flying around, and that's what Lovie Smith wants. He wants them playing fast.
3rd down and 8. Romo over the middle, and a good play by Briggs. Got his hand in front of Jason Witten. And it's 4th down.
I've been impressed with this Bears defense. I think they've done a good job here in this ball game, and kind of wondered coming into it, how they would be able to play facing a much better offense from the one they saw last weekend against Detroit, and they've held up well.
Devin Hester waits for it. McBride hits it. From just inside the 15. Good punt. Great coverage. And Danny McCray downfield to make the stop. The rookie out of LSU. 53-yard punt, -5 on the return. Chicago backed up inside their own 10, up by 3.
Today's game is sponsored by new Gillette Fusion Pro Glide. Turn shaving into gliding and skeptics into believers. By Bank of America. And by Pizza Hut. Your favorite plays deserve your favorite pizza. Your favorites, your Pizza Hut.
Chicago will start at its own 9. This is a Dallas defense that's good in limiting points, but few takeaways. And they have a defensive score in only 5 games since the start of 2008. It's tied for the 5th lowest total in the NFL. Only 21 takeaways last year, none so far this year. And Matt Forte carries it for 2 yards. Been backed up. An opportunity here for the Dallas defense with Chicago starting at its own 9 to maybe make a difference, if with nothing else, maybe even just field position.
Well, that's right, and I think that, you know, because of the punt and being able to back them up, now for Dallas defensively, you got to be able to make a stand and then regain field position, which if they're able to do that, then you're basically giving the ball back to your offense without having to do much before they're back in field goal range.
See if Cutler can come up with a big completion. He does to Knox. And Knox is short of a first down. Terrence Newman made the tackle. It'll be 3rd and 1. So a big 3rd down here for the Chicago offense, and there is no doubt, Troy, that this is a much improved team overall, certainly offense for the Chicago Bears. They are dangerous if they get any kind of blocking up front.
Yeah, but this is a down here today where they have not been very good.
1 for 8 on 3rd down. They run it with Forte, and it depends on the spot. A lunge at the end got him close. First guy there was Ratliff, and Forte is short of a first down. It's 4th down.
Yeah, and that's what's, you know, those are the ones that you just have to be able to convert. If you're going to be a good offensive unit, you have to be able to convert 3rd and 1. You can see the frustration there on Mike Martz's face. You don't want to have to get into a situation where you're having to throw on those types of down and distances, and to be forced to punt here instead of being given an opportunity to run 3 more plays is very disheartening for this offense.
Des Bryant, the rookie, already has 1 today. He's waiting for the punt from Maynard. He's got a blocker in front of him. And this time, nothing. A penalty flag comes in. Well covered downfield by Brian Ewu. And they threw the flag right in the area where he was driven into the ball carrier, Des Bryant, by Michael Hamlin. 40-yard punt, nothing on the return.
Receiving team, illegal block in the back during the return. 10-yard penalty, first down.
So that'll move it back 10 yards. There's the block in the back by Hamlin. Dallas has it down 3. Des Bryant was shaken up on that punt return, limping around on the sideline. That's a big weapon not on the field for Dallas. There's the tackle by Ewu. Block in the back by Hamlin, and that moves the ball back to the Dallas 31.
Well, you get blown up and you get a penalty.
Barber in the backfield. Fake it to him. Romo with time finds Austin. And Austin's out to the Dallas 49, and we go back to that stop by the Dallas defense on 3rd and 1.
Yeah, it's nose tackle. You're going to see he takes on Olin Kreutz and is able to get his pad level down and get underneath that block and then make the tackle there on Matt Forte. Hanging on, just a great job. I mean, that is a position there in the middle where you got You better be tough if you're going to play nose tackle in the National Football League.
Boy, he's really blossomed into a really good player in this league off his second straight Pro Bowl. 7th round pick when he was drafted, and Marion Barber is thrown to the ground by Briggs, who's had a nice second half.
It really has. He reads it very well, and he reacts well once he recognizes the play. He doesn't stay and hold his ground. As soon as he sees that it's a draw, he comes in right through the middle, unblocked, and then makes a tackle. We've seen that a lot here in this ball game, whether it's Lance Briggs or Brian Urlacher, them recognizing the play and hitting it before any blockers able to even get on them.
On 2nd and 13, Romo down the middle for Witten, and he hangs on to the 31. Urlacher in on the stop, as well as Chris Harris, and somehow, how many times have we seen Witten hang on to the football after a big hit?
Well, initially it looked like Lance Briggs was going to carry Jason Witten all the way up the seam. He did there for about 8 yards, and then he leveled off, and then that created the hole for the reception, and he has gotten the Chicago Bears' attention, because you're right, Joe. I mean, when he's caught the ball, actually when most of these receivers have caught the ball, they've all taken some pretty good hits.
Harris was injured, Chris Harris on the hit, and then Witten was woozy getting up after that hit. They take Witten out of the ball game.
This is what happens. You got your arms in the helmet. When you go backwards like that, just snaps off the turf. Clearly he was a little dazed. We saw that last week in our game in the Eagles-Packers with Stuart Bradley.
He tried to stagger off, fell flat on his face, and then was back in the game minutes later. Then didn't play the second half. Romo has it batted down. Officials do not blow the whistle. Now eventually the play is over as Julius Peppers came in and made a play. And Witten's trying to get back in the game.
Yeah, he's trying to plead his case to get back out onto the field. And we talked about it last week. It's such a sensitive issue, as it should be, that you just can't put these players at risk.
Cowboys are right now inside field goal range, but they have an untested kicker in David Beeler. Romo over the middle, hits Bennett. That's Witten's replacement. And Bennett takes it to the 26, a gain of 5. Urlacher on the tackle. Now Des Bryant is back in the lineup for Dallas after that punt return. By the way, the completion to Witten was for 23 yards, and they are right in his face, making sure he's okay. Cowboys are 6 for 11 on 3rd down. It's 3rd and 5. Choice wasn't ready for it. Pass incomplete. It's 4th down.
And Tony Romo, he's just been a little off throughout this game. He's got a perfect setup to Tashard Choice. Lance Briggs is going to be in coverage. You're going to see him here, and they call this the bullets route. In fact, last week the Bears scored on this play to Matt Forte, but if he hits him in stride right there, in all likelihood he's already got Briggs outflanked. He probably scores. Now you see Romo talking to Choice. I think Choice is just saying, hey, just put the ball where I can catch it. But I think Romo was talking to him about maybe running a little better route. It looked pretty good from here.
First real test for Beeler, and he pulls it. He missed last week in Washington, a 34-yarder. Nick Folk is gone. And there is angst on the sideline as David Beeler is now 1 for 3 in the NFL, and the Bears still lead by 3.
Today's game on Fox is sponsored by UPS. Let UPS put the power of logistics to work for you.
Well, after the missed 44-yard field goal try, the Bears take over at their own 34. And we look at the snap, the hold, the tilt, everything good, and Beeler just hooked it They drafted Beeler to be a kickoff specialist. He led the NFL last year in touchbacks with 29. They had Nick Thorpe saving a roster spot. That may change going into week 3.
Last week he pushed it right. You got to believe that that was playing in his head. And then this week he pulls it and hooks it left.
Cutler with time throws, completes to Knox. Shows off how strong his arm is. Jay Cutler. And Johnny Knox is into Dallas territory to the Cowboy 48.
Well, great job up front with the protection. And if you give this offense this kind of protection, they are going to gobble up yardage in big chunks. Because what will allow them to do then is get Johnny Knox and Devin Hester down the field, which is ultimately what Mike Martz wants. He wants that 20-yard completion like we just saw.
That was an 18-yarder to Knox. Still throwing it. Pass is complete to Bennett, and he almost stayed on his feet. Skandrick enough. Here's Kurt Menefee.
A Dolphin turnover gave the Vikings the ball at the 24-yard line, but they ran it 6 straight times with Adrian Peterson. He gets stopped 4th and goal at the 1. Miami holding on at the 2-minute warning, leading 14-10 over the Vikings. Joe, Troy, and Pam. Brett Favre, 4 turnovers today, including 3 interceptions.
That magic wasn't there in week 1 at New Orleans, and it's not there in the home opener for Brett Favre. Now it's 2nd and 2. And the Cowboys have to take a timeout. Take a break, come back. 2nd down and a long 2 for Chicago when we come back. Look at Mike Tice in his first year as the offensive line coach. That's another big addition for the Chicago offense.
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, he's one of the best in the business, and he's had his work cut out for him with some of these young players all offseason, but especially today against a great defensive pass rush. When you talk about losing your left tackle in the first series of the game and having to make major adjustments, I think they've weathered it pretty well.
Forte at the bottom of your screen, split out 2nd and 2. The pass is complete to Hester. Makes a move. Devin Hester down the sideline. Sensabaugh brings him down before he can get into the end zone. Ball comes out, but the play was over. Down by contact, brought down at the 3. 37-yard catch and run, and he went right around Terrence Newman.
You saw Michael Jenkins fell down, and then he never got back up off the ground. You're going to see him here at corner. You know, he trips and falls down there, but he just stays on the ground. Had he have gotten up quicker, he might have been able to make a play on Devin Hester.
What an opportunity for the Chicago Bears here after the missed field goal. They have a 1st and goal at the 3. And now Mike Jenkins is down and getting looked at along the sideline.
Well, you saw the outside receiver. I couldn't see exactly who that was, but was running the slant route, and it was Johnny Knox. And you saw Mike Jenkins go down, and maybe the injury there, whatever it is that they're looking at, maybe that's why he went down, as opposed to getting hurt during the process of going to the ground. And that would then explain why he wasn't able to get up off the turf any quicker than what he was able to try to make a play.
Start looking at where things are right now for Chicago, and their schedule gets really hard down the stretch. The last 4 games of the year are at home against New England, at Minnesota, at home against the Jets, at Green Bay. But they're staring at a 2-0 start, while the Dallas Cowboys, all the talk about Super Bowl 45 being in this stadium in February, they're looking at an 0-2 start if they don't rally for the first time since 2001. And a big opportunity here for the Chicago Bears with a 1st and goal. We look ahead to postseason baseball on Fox and wonder who will be in the National League Championship Series, leading into the World Series, as our postseason coverage begins on October 16th in high definition right here. Well, this injury with Mike Jenkins Now he's able to get up. I'm going to say it must be more severe than it originally looked, and now he needs a lot of help.
Joe, we'll find out what's happened with him. It looked like they might have been checking his knee, and Mike Jenkins has really developed into a heck of a player. He's their best corner, and they're pretty thin at corner. In fact, the only other corner they actually have on their roster is Orlando Scandrick, even though Alan Ball, who's the safety, could make that switch back to the corner.
Matt Forte at the top of your screen, 1st and goal. That's where Cutler goes, and Forte uncontested for the touchdown. Michael Hamlin didn't play him at all.
And you kind of wonder. No, he didn't. He wasn't able to get any kind of jam on him at all. He wasn't able to turn around, and not easy to do to come in the ball game in this situation and try to make a play. But that was just pitch and catch right there with Forte and Cutler.
This to make it a 10-point game. Jay Cutler, 21 of 29, 277 yards, 3 touchdown passes, no interceptions. Number 6 is having a big day. Bears up 10. It's a 10-point game now after the touchdown to Forte. And while the Chicago Bears early on, they couldn't protect Jay Cutler at all, that's changed, and the changes up front have worked to the Bears' advantage. And what's going on with the Dallas Cowboys offense? They miss a field goal. There's some stressed fans here in Dallas right now.
Well, no doubt. No doubt. And Chicago, I mean, what a big touchdown that was. To be able to extend that lead to a 2-possession lead was huge.
Just over 5 to play from inside the end zone, and now out fighting just across the 25 is Owusu Ansah. No penalty flags are thrown as some players start to rough it up. There has been frustration for the Dallas Cowboys. Secondary coach Dave Campo, and there's Jenkins, who was hurt later.
It's a team that feels under the gun. You can see that. That's what happens. When you're not performing at the level that you expect, and there was a lot of pressure on this ball club coming into this game after the way that they lost last week against the Redskins and the way that they had played throughout the preseason. I don't think that they anticipated being in this position down 10 with just over 5 minutes to play in this game.
Here's a pass caught by Miles Austin. Good throw. Defender had fallen down again. Lance Briggs makes the stop. A gain of 17, and the Cowboys will hurry it up. You saw Witten, who's still trying to plead his way back in this game. He was dinged up the last time the Cowboys had the ball, and he remains on the sideline. Here is Austin. What a throw. And in a blink, the Cowboys are at the 37 of Chicago. Here's Kurt Menefee in a game break. So obviously technical difficulties at the 37. It's a first down for Dallas. We'll get to that game break in a moment. Romo throws, and Roy Williams makes the catch. Now the ball comes out, and Urlacher's on top of it. Roy Williams stayed up and then lost the football, knocked out by DJ Moore, who already has 2 picks.
They got Roy Williams stood up, and then when you're in that position as a receiver, they're going to then be coming after the ball. And I couldn't tell if it was DJ Moore or Charles Tillman that was the one able to knock it out before Urlacher then falls on it. The Cowboys are driving, and that's kind of been the story, Joe, like we were talking about, that they've done some good things, but there's been enough mistakes, a missed throw here, a penalty here, turning a guy loose, putting the ball on the ground, that explains why they're down 10 points.
Now Chicago will keep it on the ground and try to eat some clock. Under 4.5 to play. Chester Taylor carries it. How about the game by DJ Moore? He's got the 2 interceptions off deflections, and then it was his effort to keep Roy Williams up that allowed Tillman a chance to come in and punch the football. for the turnover, and that's 3 turnovers by Dallas, 0 for Chicago.
Yeah, and DJ Moore, who didn't really play any last year as a rookie, he's their nickel corner, and he gets personally tutored by Lovie Smith during the week. They go into the office one-on-one and meet, watch film. Well, Lovie did a good job this week.
2nd down and 7. Here's Taylor. And with 3:40 and counting, Brady James makes the stop, a loss of 2.
And this is obviously where the Bears really get hurt, is because they're just not able to run the ball and grind out yardage. And so for them to keep the ball and take time off this clock, they've got to then do that through the air. And you're looking here at a 3rd and long situation, and as we've said, it's been a while now since the Bears have converted one of these.
To Taylor. Olshansky the first one in there, and it's 4th down. Timeout is taken by the Dallas Cowboys. There's Jason Witten pleading his case, trying to get back into this game. And that is a big weapon, not in the huddle for the Dallas offense. But again, the 3 turnovers, that's been their undoing. A missed field goal of 44 yards by Beeler, and the Bears lead it by 10.
I got to tell you, though, Joe, I applaud the medical staff there of the Dallas Cowboys by not giving in to Jason Witten. You know, he's a great player because he's a competitor. But we saw it last week. We saw some players go back into the game once they got diagnosed with a concussion. They were taken out. Clearly, Jason Witten was dazed and a bit confused, and they've made the right decision as a medical staff.
Bryant will take it on 2 hops. Tries to make a move and can't get around Iwu. A return of 5 yards. A couple of key plays in this second half. Beeler hooking a 44-yard try that would have tied it. And then the touchdown to Matt Forte. And it's been a big day for Jay Cutler, who, when his quarterback rating is over 100, his teams are 16-0 coming in, and his quarterback rating right now is at 136.7.
A little different Jay Cutler than the one that we saw a year ago, huh?
When he was racking up interceptions, 26, a career high. Romo over toward the sideline, and with forward progress, they don't stop the clock with Martellus Bennett going out of bounds, a gain of 4.
Well, we talked about it. This defense, in this situation, obviously they're doing everything they can to keep from giving up a big play. This is a hard defense to get the ball down the field against.
Here's Austin. And Austin's had a couple of big ones here the last 2 times the Cowboys have had the ball. That's good for 21.
Yeah, they continue to play that 2-deep shell, and the Cowboys have exploited that area along the sideline, because it's in front of the safety and then behind the corner.
Romo makes a move, gets around to Donijay, and the pass is caught by Bennett. Gain of just 3 with 2:13 left in the game.
You know, when you think about these types of situations, when you've really got to be able to get a pass rush on the quarterback, these are the moments, these are the games that you go out and you sign a guy like Julius Peppers.
And they gave him a 6-year, $91.5 million deal with a record $42 million of it guaranteed for these opportunities. He's blocked. Bennett underneath, inside the 40 to the 35, and that will take us to the 2-minute warning. A 16-yard catch and run by Martellus Bennett. Time running out on the Dallas Cowboys, who are staring at an 0-2 start. AT&T post-game show is coming up after our action here in Arlington, Texas. Kurt, Terry, Howie, Michael, and Jimmy, scores and highlights. Week 2 around the NFL. It's a first down for Dallas. They trail by 10. They have 1 timeout left. Romo flips it to Bennett. And Martellus Bennett, instead of heading to the sideline, stays in bounds. Play is made by Moore and Tillman, a gain of 6.
The Cowboys are focused so much on trying to chip those outside pass rushers, particularly Julius Peppers, that it's what has freed Martellus Bennett up underneath after he's gone out in the route.
We welcome in a new audience. That's us. We are in Arlington, and if you are checking out the score for the first time, the Chicago Bears are headed to a 2-0 start. The Dallas Cowboys an 0-2 start, and they have a road date next weekend at Houston, a good Texans team. 1 timeout remaining. There were 4 lead changes in the first half. Cutler's been terrific, and Lovie Smith has been under fire in Chicago after taking the Bears to the Super Bowl in 2006. No playoffs the last 3 years. Has to like what he's seen from his offense. Romo into the end zone. Great coverage downfield by Manning and Urlacher on Miles Austin. And it's 4th down. For those of you just joining us, here's a recap. Des Bryant, the rookie, went 62 yards on a punt return for a touchdown. Great catch by Devin Hester on a 9-yard touchdown throw from Cutler. 2 interceptions on deflections on the part of Tony Romo. A missed 44-yard field goal by Beeler. And that led to the Forte touchdown. And here's Beeler, another chance to make it on 4th down, to make it a 1-score game. And Beeler, who missed earlier from 44, hits from 48.
That was a big kick right there. He misses that one. Game over. I mean, he had to make that to at least give them an opportunity now to recover the onside kick.
Well, we talked about it, Troy, early about this Dallas offense. And the word during preseason was, and the same for the Bears, who cares, it's preseason, we'll get it going when the season starts. Then they start the season, Kozar's not ready, Colombo's not ready, Des Bryant missed the preseason. Now they've got everybody together. They keep saying wait till we're all healthy. Well, the excuses are gone, and they're not scoring touchdowns.
Oh, and so you go back to saying, well, preseason doesn't matter. Well, if you're going to play them, it does matter, because that's when you develop a lot of continuity. That's when you take what you've gained through those 4 preseason games and carry it over into the regular season. And it doesn't just happen like the Cowboys were hoping that it would. Sometimes it does, but when you've struggled throughout the preseason and then you go into week 1 and you struggle, you know, now the pressure starts to mount. And I thought they did some good things. I mean, they had over 400 yards of offense in this game. You know, some of it's misleading because of how they got it late, but it was just being off here and there.
So the onside kick attempt, and now timeout is taken by Chicago. Meanwhile, the Bears have featured big plays here today. We look at some of the numbers in Cutler, who's been outstanding. Hester, 4 catches and a touchdown. Romo, his day. 2 interceptions on deflections. 1 was a good throw, 1 was behind Witten. 3 turnovers, a missed field goal for Dallas. The Bears have 2 interceptions that have led to 2 field goals. A 39-yard Olsen touchdown catch. A 59-yard Johnny Knox catch to set up the Hester 9-yard touchdown. And then a 38-yard Hester catch to set up the Forte score. And now Dave Toub, the special teams coordinator for Chicago, goes over with his hands team how he wants them to defense this onside kick. Up into the air, pretty good effort, but into the arms of Bennett. And Earl Bennett will seal a 2-0 start for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, he didn't get the good bounce that you're really looking for on that onside kick. It got up in the air in a hurry, and Earl Bennett was able to make a pretty easy grab without much of a scrum.
Only one timeout remaining for the Dallas Cowboys, and all the Bears have to do is snap it cleanly. And Tony Romo, and the Cowboys will be 0-2 and then going on the road within the state against a very good Houston team next weekend here on Fox.
Well, and we talked about it coming in, Joe, as far as the mistakes, the penalties, the things that have plagued the Cowboys, and that continued again today. And offensively, I think when you talk about Mike Martz and Jay Cutler and what they now have on this side of the ball is pretty special. And I would also point out defensively for the Bears, they're going to drop significantly in the NFL rankings because of the fact they did give up over 400 yards. But they made the Cowboys one-dimensional. They were outstanding in stopping the run. This was an offense last year that was second in the league in yards per attempt running the football, and the Bears shut it down and made them move the ball through the air.
Cowboys are out of timeouts. Clock doesn't start. Now it does. And the Chicago Bears now, we talked about what's coming up for the Dallas Cowboys. The Chicago Bears are at home against Green Bay in what looks like should be a very good matchup. And Lovie Smith, who hasn't had a lot to smile about lately, he's smiling. Mike Martz looked like he was fighting back a smile on the sideline as Chicago's going to be 2-0.
Well, so it's a huge win. And you know, we're still figuring out what teams are good and what teams we thought were good aren't. And the Bears are showing that they're a pretty good team, and they're going to start playing with more confidence. That's going to be a heck of a matchup within that NFC North division against the Packers next week.
The ground game, when you talk about Chicago's defense, and a team, by the way, in Chicago that was 2-6 on the road last year. They come to Dallas, the Cowboys home opener, and they win it. The Cowboys 20 rushes, 36 yards. They averaged 1.8 yards per carry. Jay Cutler was hit a lot early. The offense got on a roll, made some big plays. The defense forcing 3 turnovers. Lovie's smiling. We'll come back. 7-point win for Chicago.